The markets are rebounding after Friday's sell off. However, there's still plenty of fear to be had over in Asia. We'll be discussing all of that and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Money Never! Thanks for joining us, everybody. As we get going, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research, yada, yada, yada. Kev, we had a poor jobs number on Friday paired with some revisions to the previous month's jobs numbers that had people freaking out a little bit. The market wiped out quite a bit of gains last week, trying to claw some of it back today. We're seeing NASDAQ, S&P Dow all up over 1%, NASDAQ leaning away 1.7%, with the big caps, the magnificent 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is at this point, at the forefront of that. Meanwhile, I know that you're still concerned about Asia. You're going to be concerned about Asia for the rest of your life, it would appear. We have some earnings this week. It's a pretty light week overall. No big economic data releases, some earnings that I have my eye on for Wednesday we can discuss. But how are you feeling as we kick off the first full week in August?
Yeah, man. I keep tweeting on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck the shit's called. I really don't care. But I keep saying A is for August and August is for Asia because, tomorrow or tonight, honestly, will be the 1 year anniversary of the yen carry trade unwind that we saw. And we're in a very similar situation again. As the Nikkei needs a drop in order to save bonds. The bond market just looking absolutely wild. It's like maybe it's not tonight, maybe it's not tomorrow, but very soon, I think Asia is going to have some big problems on their hands, and the U.S. might be able to hold it up for a little bit. But I think that given what happened in the markets on Friday, they're trying to rebound from some of this tariff talk. Trump's doing the taco trades nonstop. You do have a little bit more room of this summer volatility crush and price going up. So it's very possible that different economies start showing very different things and their markets reflect that. But for right now, I think the U.S. is kind of trying to push up one last time. We could talk about that when we get into charts, but that's just my overall thoughts of what I'm seeing. I'm very excited to see that the markets are already reacting to the new month. Now the question is, how do they react to the next quarter?
Yeah, a lot has been made of, August is typically a poor month in the markets. I would say you got to take that with a grain of salt in crypto, in that it is a post-halving year. So the Bitcoin halving was in 2024. And, for the last 2 or 3 times that we've had the halving, the year after has produced solid returns in August for Bitcoin in the neighborhood of, like, I want to say the most recent numbers I saw was like average 16 to 18%. So, could see some potential there. We're seeing a little bit of Bitcoin dominance fall as alts are catching a little bit of a bid. We got ETH back approaching 3,700, Solana in the 160s. Rough week last week for Fartcoin, but we're seeing a little bit of a rebound there. Very oversold. We'll see if they can bounce. I saw a lot of sentiment that led me to believe that Fartcoin was going to catch a bid. A lot of people victory lapping, entering their short positions, at 90 cents when it was already down close to 50%. So there's some accounts that I follow purely for like counter trade signals.
Yeah.
And they were flashing pretty hard yesterday and Saturday that it was time to get bullish on Fartcoin again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unless it went lower than that low that we got where we projected that head and shoulders pattern, it was still technically within the inverted head and shoulders pattern. It's bounced since then. If we continue to see it go up, then maybe it's just a massive pattern that's built for, a massive candle to the upside. We just don't know. Obviously, it sucks sometimes when we look at things and it's just like, it takes time to kind of evaluate. Gave you a really good entry if you still believed in the damn thing. I added very little just because I was just like, see what happens here. I think there's other stocks and stuff like that I'm very excited to see. and I think he had the opportunity to run. But I didn't sell any of my Farcoin. I'm riding this thing. I think hot air still has plenty of room to rise, and I'll be the first one on here to say when I do sell it. But it just didn't seem right to sell it given how oversold the technicals are. And like you said, those counter trades, people were talking mad shit about Farcoin for the past week. And, at some point, it's going to reverse on you. We'll talk about liquid markets, but I think a lot of positions are going to get squeezed and thrown out of their positions before the true move does happen, right? That's the nature of volatility in markets. And when volatility does get reintroduced, when does that happen? Tends to be when we get illiquid markets. So that being said, should we jump into the jobs data or should we jump into Japan?
I'm just going to share this real quick. This was when I knew that it was time. We were going to catch a bounce, right?
Right.
And the TradFi like Twitter, this guy's account. I don't know if he's serious sometimes or if it's just like a troll account. But when I saw this, I was like, all right, we're good. Farcoin is still get used so much. Like the mind share is crazy. So I think that does, there's no such thing as bad press, and there's no such thing as bad engagement when it comes to our beloved Farcoin. But yes, go ahead. Let's jump into Asia, talk about what's going on over there. Then we can hit U.S. equities and then crypto.
Sounds good. Yeah. So when we're looking at Asia, we're looking at Japan primarily. Don't get me wrong. I think all of Asia is kind of in this position where they could see a lot of swings in their forex. Obviously, Thailand and Cambodia, that war going on there could lead to stronger currencies in Asia. So obviously, the yen could get stronger because of that. There's just a lot of things that could happen given with the tariff rates. Obviously, we have to expect that there's going to be a lot of flip-flopping back and forth with those. I think there will be until you see a ceremonial, and one of our followers, Chris, I think said this, until we see a ceremonial signing between the two nations, none of these tariff deals are real. They're all one-sided. Trump just trying to make the market look better than it actually is. That's also from the Japanese prime minister coming out last night and saying that we have no intention of signing any of these tariffs. So that's just kind of what you have to expect. They're going to be pushed back, delayed. But we want to look at the Nikkei right now because the Nikkei, the bond market, and Forex all are playing, I guess it's a bit of a love triangle going on there. Someone's going to be getting more action than the other, and one person's going to be left out. The question is who's going to be left out, and who being left out is actually going to save the Japanese markets, the Japanese bond yields from going higher. Because what we're looking at right now is potentially the end of a lot of Japanese banks, and that's because the yields continue to go up higher. I'm literally just riffing right now because I'm trying to pull this up, and there we go. Finally, fuck. I was like trying to open this. I'm like, oh my goodness, open the right window, damn it. But yeah, so here's the Nikkei, and the reason why this is really important is I kept on saying August 4th, there's going to be a bad day. August 4th, that's today, but that was alluding to last night, and last night, the Nikkei was down almost 900 points. It closed up a lot higher. It started to get a bid. It started finding some support on this blue line. But I'm letting you guys know, the second it loses this thing and it doesn't reclaim it, you're looking at the unwind completely. It is really trying its hardest to hold on to this level of support. It closed this gap that we had from last week on this green candle we got Thursday. It was closing it from the Monday into Tuesday open. We're probably going to fill this gap right here. You might go to 40,757, which would be a 500-point bounce from where we currently are. I think that's possible, but at some point you are going to come down and test this blue line again. If you do not hold it, the market's going to probably turn over. The reason why I think that there's a good chance that this could potentially happen is because we look at the Japanese 30-year. Obviously, we got the all-time high recently. I think it was right over here. Actually, no, it was here. It was here on the 15th of July, the highest since 2008. And the 30-year yield. The reason why this is bad is because a lot of these banks bought this shit back in 2020 around the pandemic when rates were extremely low worldwide, right? Now we're seeing that the yields are going up. So we're going from a low yield to now a higher yield. These banks have unrealized losses that potentially they might have to realize fairly soon. More so the 5-year, I would say, because again, we talk about that 5-year debt coming due. If no one's buying some of these loans and there's no desire to buy some of these some of these treasuries, these bonds, because the equity market is continually to provide more return than some of these yields, then you're going to see the bond market deteriorate in Asia. And why this is important is because it means that the Nikkei is probably going to continue to push up, inflation is going to continue to be a problem, and the government won't be able to finance some of its debt. That's really the problem here. And it's the same problem that we have in the US, right? So how do you fix that? Well, you have to sacrifice equities in order to save the bond market. So that's why we saw the pullback in the Nikkei last night. And we did see a bit of a pullback in the yen, I mean in the 30-year yield. But the problem is it did nothing. I mean, last week we had 6 interventions in 3 trading days from the Bank of Japan. There's something terribly wrong right now in Japan, and it's very hush hush. You're not hearing anything about it, but we're going to continue to see this be a problem. I mean, tonight's open is either going to be massive red for the Nikkei, or it's going to be massive green for the yield. That's kind of just the situation that you're in. If the Nikkei can open up really red, and you're seeing a lot of investors throw money into the yields, into the bond market, then you're probably going to be able to stay afloat for a few days. But if the Nikkei is not down and the yields continue to go up a lot higher, we're probably going to see absolute catastrophe across a lot of these Japanese banks. Again, why is that important? Because then if the yield continues to go up, you're probably going to see the yen being devalued. But if the market does sell off, then the yen carry trade unwind is open again because the yen will get stronger as equities sell off as people look for cash on hand. Why is this important? Because the yen is the primary cash used or currency used for a lot of derivatives trading globally, in Germany, in the EU, in the US. So as things start to fade there and their currency starts to get stronger, you're going to see a lot of people that owe a lot of money because, again, the 5 year is coming due right now, or September is when we're going to start seeing it pick up again. You're going to see an insane amount of selling and fire sales, I think, globally. Maybe it hits Asia first, but it will be coming to the US at some point. I think Japan is just going to be the first domino of these nations, like Switzerland. Countries in the EU will probably be next after them, and then the United States would be most likely last. So this is a very fun, like I said, it's a 3-way cycle. Whatever happens in the next week or so, if they're able to save the yields from going up higher, great. Maybe we can float into September and then something bad happens then when a lot more debt comes due. If they're not able to, keep it from rising, if they can't keep it from going up, then the shit's going to get wild. That's all I have to say on that. But it's, if you're a GameStop holder, this is kind of what you're looking forward to. Again, we know that this is going to prevent a lot of people from, borrowing naked shares because they're using that yen because it was cheap return. It was going to be easy money. Might not be easy money for a lot of people who are shorting. It's creating illiquidity in the markets. And that's when you can see a lot of things start to run, i.e. people who are shorting Farcoin, people who are shorting GameStop. You're just going to see margin calls and you're going to see liquidations nonstop for the next month if this happens the way that it kind of is pointing towards what it likely will do.
All right, let's go to the U.S. equity market then. Like I said, there's a lot right now that is concerning, and we've been like, we're like a broken record at this point.
Yeah,
like the job market is obviously a problem.
Oh, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Trump literally wants rate cuts. He gets data that supports his fucking rate cuts. He fires the guy and says, "Nah, that was a Biden appointee." Dude, pick a fucking lane and ride with it. Literally, that was the best case scenario for a rate cut, and he was just like, "Nah, that's bullshit."
I don't think he understands what it's gonna like. That you can't have great numbers and rate cuts. Like it doesn't work like that. Like what exactly? I don't know. And then yeah,
they lied. Fucking Jerome Powell lied through his teeth for that for 2 years.
So we had that, and then we also had a Fed governor. Was it Kugler?
Yeah,
who quit. So Trump is going to be able to appoint one there that'll help his cause. We had consumer spending data that is not good. Like everything's so crazy. I'm going to a movie tonight. First time my wife and I have gone to a movie in a long time. I went to buy tickets. It's like $25 a ticket.
Yep.
To get into a movie. Like what the fuck is going on? Like everything's just so out of whack right now.
Bought a hot dog yesterday. $7 for a fucking hot dog, dude. That's insane.
Where were you at the baseball game in Ohio where the Reds were playing the Braves? Like at Bristol? Like, come on, that's crazy. Just going off on a tangent. So much is out of whack right now. I think that there is still, and you see differing sides. Like you hear one group saying that like, oh, this is still time to buy dips like on Friday. Maybe that was the case for like a short term like scalp trade. But Others say that, like, hey, it's a time to be more concerned because we do have spending is down. The labor market is clearly struggling. Inflation is still showing signs of stickiness, and there's a lot of uncertainty with what is going on with the tariffs. And, you know, extensions are being drawn out there. But, like, is that going to change anything? Uh, so we have till September for this rate cut decision. Like, it seems the odds swung, and like we said, was a possibility. The odds swung toward like an 80% chance of a rate cut now in September, and higher chances of 2 to 3 this year. So in the last final 3 meetings of the year, like anything's possible there. So it's still a time to like listen, man. There is nothing wrong with taking some profit right now.
No.
Like I sold a little bit of Bitcoin the other day. Like nothing crazy. I still have a large hold, like a relatively large holding. Nothing crazy. I'm still doing
You
this show.
whale.
Yeah, exactly. God, man. Let me
Speaking of
tell you
whales,
something.
yeah.
Let me tell you something. I received like 5 Bitcoin like years ago when it was like $800 a piece from the online poker site. Sold it immediately. Like, in hindsight, I hate myself. Anyway, I didn't feel bad taking just like a little sliver of profit on Bitcoin at 115K. Like, you got to pay bills. You got to treat yourself every now and then. But yeah, like if you have some, if you were buying Coinbase stock when it was down at 50 a share, a year and a half ago, nothing wrong with some profit there. If you've ridden up some of these other, if you were buying Solana at $20, like take some off the top. Like, I think that we are in store for the final quarter of this year to potentially get kind of ugly, and having some, take some profit to enjoy it, take some cash on hand to buy some potential dips, I don't think is the worst thing in the world.
Not at all. And I do want to just segue into equities because taking profits on some of these stocks wasn't a bad idea, right? This summer, you had low volatility and things are pushing up. Now we're getting into the dog days, the ass end of summer. We really are. And yes, the computers are trading for a lot of these firms, but once we get back to September and things need to get sold to, again, how do you pay off debt? When the equities are all time highs, you're probably going to see equity sell off, and that's going to bring the bond market back into balance, because I care what anyone says, the bond market right now is just absolutely a shit show globally. There's not one economies that's bond market is showing any signs of strength. But looking at Apple here, it was trading in this wedge. It broke out of it. Do I think it's possible it can push back into it? Absolutely. We're getting into a period of illiquidity. If people start shorting Apple now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you start seeing a lot of shorts come in. It's the market with how much debt is out there and how much people need certain amounts of currency, so cash, essentially, to pay off some of those debt. You will see a lot of these swings in this market just back and forth by whales who do have cash. They're like, okay, let me just push the price up here and then I'll get out of my position, right? And you liquidate people, and you also are at a point where it's just like, okay, I own the stock, let me dump it on people. It's going to be back and forth. One company that absolutely didn't cook the books and pretty much told people, yeah, we're fucked if shit gets worse, is Amazon. And you question why Jeff Bezos was selling $3 billion worth of stock for the past 3 months. It's like, no shit. I'm not surprised that we're seeing this type of dump in the market from it, right? It was down 8.27% on Friday after earnings on Thursday. So it's like, is this all that surprising? No. Can it push up and fill this gap? Maybe. I'm not fucking betting on it, right? The amount of market cap that you have to add to some of these things. But I do think that we're going to get into a period where people know that shit's going to get bad. They short too early, they get liquidated, and then the market does what they fucking want it to. So it's a really interesting place. It's like, where do we put our money if we think that there is going to be extreme volatility? However, our positions aren't necessarily safe. Either you got to have cash on hand to keep, moving your liquidation price, or you have to think outside the box and be like, I'm just going to take profit, wait for things to cool off, then I'll buy back in. For example, Berkshire Hathaway, they did not buy in Q2 any of their stock back. They didn't buy any stock. They were just sitting on cash the whole time because they are waiting to buy something.
I got a take on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't like their returns have been shit.
Sure.
Like, they've been underperforming vastly, and I don't know if they're, with Warren Buffett stepping down, I don't know if they're the gold standard that they used to be. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I get they're holding a lot of cash, but like they've been, I don't know, they may be just wrong on this one.
I don't think they're wrong not to buy back their own stock because I think they're pretty much open to the possibility that, hey, if there's a greater market downturn, every stock's probably going to get hit. And that's them with themselves. I feel like if they are going to buy their own stock back, they're going to buy it in a better value. I agree, though. I think it's going to be very different without Warren Buffett. But I do think, for the most part, sitting on that much cash and then buying at the right time in the future, they might be a fairly good buy. But it's more or less just seeing how people are positioning themselves, right? When you don't see stock buybacks, you see the CEO selling stuff. Kind of a red flag, I think, personally. But that's Amazon here. Obviously, I think Google, which one was it? Was it Meta that had a fucking insane? Yeah, Meta just
Yeah,
putting in gap after gap after gap. Obviously, like this is absolutely insane. This is like their level of support right now. So I
they could.
mean,
I mean, they have a chance of closing at all-time highs today.
they really do, and I
That's
think
nuts.
it's very possible. But people like, can you imagine? Fuck, I mean, I've said this before, but maybe I've been wrong. I've been wrong more or less in this fucking insane high, fucking value overvalued market. Imagine buying here and thinking like, oh yeah, that's a good investment. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Like looking at this chart and it's just like, my goodness, man, what did we do? Like, what did we smoke back in 2022 that just allowed Meta after the metaverse failed to just continue to push up this much? Like, I don't know, guys. It's
AI.
just
Just they said AI, and everyone got a boner, and
yeah.
that
I can't
was
wait for
just
the AI bubble to pop. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's just going to get to the point where this shit is going to pop, and maybe it is when all the liquidity gets sucked out of the market. Again, Jensen Huang, another person who's selling, but nevertheless, Nvidia pushing up. The thing is with
Nvidia.
Nvidia,
Fucking Nvidia, man.
I hate
Like
this thing,
it's crazy.
but you can't short it. And that's the crazy thing. And I
Oh,
say
you'll get wrecked.
exactly like if you would have shorted at 144, it's just going to keep going up, and that's why I think that's very dangerous here because this thing could just fucking go up another $20. Possibly could. I'm not saying it's wise if you do buy in unless you're scalp trading it. But looking at this here, you lose that blue line of support, you're fucking coming down and filling tons of gaps. This is an absolutely insane level of support. That's very similar to the Nikkei. I think once you lose this level, you're gone. That being said, Tesla obviously is putting a little diamond pattern here. Eventually, it's going to break to the upside or the downside. We're going to look at the broader market and see that's probably going to be the case. Even gold, right? Gold is kind of putting in a sideways continuation pattern. It's going to break one way or the other. I think if the market does start to sell off, you're probably going to see gold sell off with it because right now it's more of just uncertainty in the markets. Again, gold is the uncertain trade. Like, oh, we're worried about inflation. But when things actually come to fruition, it's like, oh, no, we don't want gold. We actually want cash. So there's a lot of things that are just kind of like hovering over, turning points in this market. And I'm not surprised that we're at this point where it could go either way. That's the illusion. But you're coming into September. Yields are looking like shit across the board. People don't want any bonds. That's how you're going to have to save it. It's going to have to come from somewhere. I think it's going to come from equities. That's all I got on that front. Do you want to jump into crypto and wrap it up?
Yes, let's do that to close out the day.
Cool. Bitcoin obviously came down to 112 over the weekend, or no, my bad. Yeah, about 112, 111, 907, something like that. Found support from this little May 19th wick right there. Here's the thing. I'm not looking at it necessarily technically. I'm looking more of, all right, who's the person that's buying the most amount of Bitcoin? Michael Saylor, right? We talked about this, how his position is almost like centralizing Bitcoin to a good extent to the point where, yeah, he keeps buying on the way up. But we've talked about this over and over again. How's he doing it? He's selling MicroStrategy stock to have cash, or not necessarily sell MicroStrategy stock. Insiders are selling MicroStrategy stock, but he's issuing these convertible bond notes where people are buying these. He's taking the cash from that and he'll issue them shares unless it goes below a certain point in which they can sell, right? The crazy thing is he's been doing this nonstop as the Bitcoin price has been pushing up and we have not gotten a correction. So his DCA to Bitcoin in the past 6 months has to be fucking insane. Like we're not talking 60K, 35K Bitcoin. We're talking like 90 plus, most likely.
Oh,
And the scary thing
oof.
is, look at where we are right now. And again, this is why I say he is the black swan for Bitcoin. It's nothing else at this point. We go from the all-time high to say 90K. That's only a 30% drop. If we expect a 2008 or a 2000 or something like that for equities and saying it's like the dot-com bubble, it's the AI bubble when liquidity is pulled out of the system, everything starts eating shit for like a year or so, you're not going less than 30% most likely. You're probably going to retest some levels where you haven't filled, right? We've seen Bitcoin in the past and a lot of other altcoins drop significantly in bear markets, right? I mean, look at where Bitcoin went in the FTX explode. Went down to 17K, right? 16, 17K or so. So from where that was here, let me try and find FTX, that bullshit from. That's insane to see how much Bitcoin's pushed up compared to where it was. Oh my gosh. Fucking crazy, guys. But here, let's go to FTX. That was a 76% drop in the market. Where would 76% drop? I'm not saying it's going to drop 76, but I do think that we are going to see a greater than 30% drop if we do go into a bear market or a recession or something like that. 76 or so takes us to the perfect yellow line right there, about 31,000, right? If that guy starts getting liquidated, starts getting some margin calls and people start selling the bond notes of what he's issued, he's got to sell Bitcoin in order to make good on some of that debt. That's the scary thing. And this guy's been buying nonstop. And if you start seeing Bitcoin sell in fast lots, that just means it's in a liquid market where you're going to start seeing the price move faster than probably there are people willing to buy it. Again, we also know that if there's not a lot of cash out there, people aren't going to be able to buy it. So if he sells, say, 2 Bitcoin, in theory, if he sells, say, not 2 Bitcoin, let's say 200, 2,000 Bitcoin or something like that, you might see Bitcoin's price drop like $5,000 real quick out of nowhere if there are no buyers. Like it could be something that quick where it's just like boom, 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 boom. You're just gapping down pretty much. You might see some massive red candles. It might look like a WNBA game, just massive red dildos. It's going to be. You like that one?
That was good.
Yeah, I had to fit that in. There's some funny tweets about that, and I'm sure
Dude,
that
it's been so great.
there's going to be definitely. The funny thing was that Greg, the guy on the Twitter with Greg, he put a green dildo in like a Dunkin' Donuts. He replaced it with like a Long John or whatever that shit's called.
Yeah.
And I was like, that most certainly is a GameStop joke right there. That's a green dildo, my boys.
Oh
Um,
man, that's
but
good.
this has been amazing. But yeah, so I think that's the worry for Bitcoin in the medium to I'd say next 3 months. We have to make sure that Bitcoin stays elevated, but it's going to be a problem given liquidity concerns. That's my take on that. Where it goes from here in the short term, it could stay right where it is, or it could bounce down to like say 104, drop down to there, bounce again. It could be very stupid around here. I do think though, dominance will pull back a little bit more. I think that we've had the good first move down. We've got our ABC correction here, and I think we're going to start moving down once again, which allows us to have some movement in some of these alts. Now, which ones are going to run up? I don't know. Obviously, for Filecoin holders, you want to see Solana run up. That makes the most amount of sense, right? You also want to see it be the meme of the cycle. So that's essentially what you need it to be. You need this to be October, November of 2021 Shiba Inu. So you got a month or so to get into that point where it's just like, all right, everyone thinks this thing's so stupid, and it's so stupid, and we're going into something terrible in the end, the second half of this year. That you start seeing this mania. That's my thesis on Filecoin. You need Solana to start pushing up to the upside. On the MACD, it looks like it's about halfway through oversold. On the stochastic RSI, it looks like it's oversold in the daily. You got the move down. I think you're going to start putting in, hopefully, some moves to the upside. We want to see 5-way moves to the upside. Because if this is an ABC corrective pattern, it's probably going to top out somewhere around here in the C wave. The latest I'll go is, say, middle of September. That's when I'm very skeptical of anything that requires liquidity to push up, because I think that once we get to that September OPEX, there's a very good opportunity for a lot of things to just go, just be absolutely rugged. Again, September quarterly OPEX going into October, that's always a big one. So that's why I say it's going to be, you got a little bit of time left to see some of these things pump. Honestly, I hope it pumps sooner rather than later. I think there is some room for things to pump. You're seeing the equity markets do the same thing. Let's see, ETH ETH, I don't know what it's doing. I really don't care either. I don't have any ETH. I will buy some when it does get down fairly lower, but it bounced right off of that top of the parallel channel. If it wants to go test, 44,070 again, well, then, you just have your quad top right there. And who knows if it pushes up. Honestly, it'd be better for a lot of the other alts if ETH doesn't push up that much. I think that the dominance of ETH and Bitcoin going down here, gives, again, Farcoin, Solana, all those other meme coins and alts a better opportunity at some better gains. But again, usually when the alts
Listen,
run,
all I know for ETH is that once again, Eric Trump said buy the dip, and so I think that is probably a good sign to take some profit. That guy is a fucking dum dum.
yeah, man, it's fucking insane with those guys. But I just want to pull up Farcoin last one. Technically this still works as head and shoulders pattern, but you needed to start going above this blue line here. You needed to pump up, start clawing its way back to 163. If you break 170, and again, this is like a pipe dream. It seems like right now, considering you're at 95 cents, but the market cap's still very low. If
When
it
it
becomes
seems like a pipe dream, when sentiment is at its lowest, that's when we're gonna see the run.
absolutely, what you don't want to see though is this bullshit right here.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it climbing, break down, climbing, break down. Don't get me wrong, that's great support. You've created an insane amount of support, but I think we're all ready. Farcoin holders are ready for the fucking mania, right? We want to see it just start climbing. We want green dildos being thrown left and right. We want it to be pretty much above 160. We want to break that 170. And then, the only level of resistance that you have past that point is 273. It really is. So, I mean, if it starts moving fast and you get really excited, maybe it starts double, 2xing fairly quickly. But again, you kind of need a liquid market. You need stupid things to happen. You need to see some of the big boys like ETH, Bitcoin pull back a little bit and allow, some room for the alts. Again, when the alts run, usually the end of the market, right? It doesn't rotate back into Bitcoin. You kind of see everything kind of pull back together. So that's what I assume. To finish off, I think we only just have to say one thing. Happy birthday, Ryan Cohen, CEO of GameStop. One update on this, the stapler we talked about Friday, the zip code has changed and the dates have also changed once again. So GameStop most definitely has a plan. I still believe in it. I think it is going to be coinciding with Japan in many ways, but let's see what happens. International Cat Day is on Thursday. If that means anything, hopefully Roaring Kitty does come back. But here, it'd be
It
funny.
doesn't mean anything.
Imagine he comes back. And my bad, not Thursday. It's Friday, I think. Yeah, Friday is 8-8. But it's supposed to be Infinity Squeeze, 8-8, Infinity symbols. I love this shit. This is like UFOs and
You and your conspiracy theories
Bermuda
here,
Triangle.
man.
Yeah, you got it. Hey man, I don't give two shits about anything but that right now. So just roll with it.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Hope you enjoyed it. For those who watched, if you haven't yet, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. We'll be back later this week to talk about the latest in the market. So until then, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.